So Christina from Ready Games Network, who I think have a booth outside, going to be talking about optimizing monetization funnels, lots of Z's, in your game with Web3, and I guess talking a bit about what Ready Games are doing.
So kind of give you a high level of what we're doing at Ready Games. So we've essentially built a full tech stack to really bring any game on chain. We wanted about a little over 2 years ago to build a Web3 game, and we essentially could not. Every time we wanted to build a feature, every time we wanted to keep, for example, a wallet in chain, we couldn't find any suppliers or any tech out there that we could tap into. So we decided to build it ourselves. The full tech stack is there to help developers build NFT collections, manage smart contracts. We're completely chain agnostics. We write all the smart contracts for you. We've built KPIs on-chain. We've built quests on-chain, which I'm going to dig into. We've built different features that you're used to using in Web 2 to essentially optimize now on-chain, and we show you how. We believe Web3 gaming will be match 3 games, will be first-person shooter games, will be fashion games, will really be all the games that people love to play, and essentially that's going to be the gateway into getting people and mass adoption into Web3 gaming. So I'll essentially dig in. So as we mentioned, we are really the most complete Web3 game development tool out there. We essentially are supporting all games, all developers on every platform, be it PC, mobile, iOS, app, Google Play. We're completely compliant in all of the app stores. And we're really building player first, really for every player. So I'm going to talk more about optimizing new monetization channels. One of the things that we are doing with a lot of our partners, essentially, our developer and studio partners, is building out what we like to call on-chain player quests. Let's get these players moving, for example, between games, accessing NFTs at different points, rewarded NFTs, purchased NFTs. Let's bring game mechanics like crafting and breeding to bring them really down funnel and make them feel really engaged in the game. And that's really what you're exactly tapping on-chain. So on-chain player quests, we're enabling a Web3 player journey. Let's get that player moving through different games. Let's get that player really loving and having fun in their game. Utilizing crafting and breeding mechanisms to bring players down funnel, super key. A tool that is really now essentially developers can tap into Web3. Utilizing on-chain player profiles to incentivize players across games. Every time a player is doing something in a game, either time in game, the gameplay, getting rewarded a badge, buying an asset, bringing friends, so referring friends into the game, all that is being tracked in its player profile, what we call reputational capital. And essentially, as a developer, that's a gold mine for you. So we encourage players to share that data because they're incentivized directly, and as a developer, you're able to tap into that. That's how you send them incentives. That's how you do user acquisition in Web3. That's how you do re-engagement campaigns, for example. And interoperable NFTs. Interoperable NFTs isn't about taking a sword that's pixelated in one game and bringing it into more of a realism game. That's not the key here. The key is having the right tools to read the characteristics of the NFT and essentially how you're able to tap into it. So how did that player gain the NFT? What game was the player playing? What demographic is the player? And that's what you're essentially targeting and accessing the data because it's on-chain, essentially. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is really show you gameplay, show you the funnel, and show you exactly how the tech is working. Is it playing? Great. So we're going to jump in. This is more of a AAA style game that's about to be released, built on Unreal, PC first. So essentially this player has logged in, email password to its crypto wallet, essentially its identity on chain. The player is on the platform, he gets his quest, essentially terminate those two owners of those guns, get the guns, be able to craft. So the player is going. Essentially is going to accomplish the mission, is going to retrieve the weapons, which are NFTs. As the player goes to the item, it's actually claiming the item. So at that moment, what's happening on the blockchain is the transfer of ownership is happening. Again, all in-game, seamless. I mean, there's really nothing that the player is doing outside of it. So the ownership transfer is happening. The player is just enjoying the gameplay. Everything is happening in the back end by us on chain. Now the player is the proud owner of those two weapons, is going to go back to its mission platform to essentially say, hey, I've accomplished the quest. Check mark, fantastic. And now this is us demonstrating that the player profile and the wallet also exists in the player dashboard in another place where the wallet is also existing. And what we're demonstrating here is whatever is happening in the game is happening instantly in that wallet. So now the wallet address is being selected by the player, and the player sees that those two items do in fact belong to him, he in fact has ownership of them. So now the player is going to its reward. The player is given the reward to be able to craft a completely new item. This item is only able to be obtained by that player by essentially having these two initial weapons. The player is making sure that it's in the right wallet that it wants, wallet that's managed by Ready, essentially. The player has crafted a completely new item. What that means is that the two items are merged together, two first smart contracts are completely eliminated, and a new one is written instantly in the game. I think that's it for the video. There was a little bit more, but I think I cut it shorter. But essentially what we're demonstrating here is optimizing gameplay 100% in the game with our technology. And by bringing these on-chain quests, essentially players are able to even move game to game with their on-chain player profile. Now this player, for example, is going to be able to take that weapon or the characteristics of that weapon, what that weapon represents, and bring it to another first-person shooter game, for example, and be able to essentially get benefits because it owns that really special item. What that player can also do is trade that item directly in the game, sell that item directly in the game or outside on another marketplace, or essentially even rent it out. Let's say the player is tired of playing. Well, that's a new monetization path for developers, allowing players to rent out their assets, and you as a developer, as being the original owner of that item, actually being able to get a revenue share off of that. So now the concept of revenue share and keeping sort of a part of ownership on everything that you've sort of developed in the game is another revenue path that should definitely be tapped into by developers, and it brings you back value from the creation of whatever you've done in the game. No. Okay. So now I'm going to bring you to a mobile game. So we went from a PC, more mid-core type game, to now mobile. This is a game that actually lives on iOS currently, and we're going to bring in the same mechanics. Now what's important is that crafting is made seamless, fun for the player, 100% in-game. So the player has logged in the same way as the PC game, email, password. The player is going through the IAP store. So this is the IAP store that's regulatory compliant in Apple and Google. And essentially, we've built the same store to enable NFT transactions. The player has selected two items, but is not able to craft them because they're not NFT items. So you're able to mix IEP regular digital assets and NFTs to essentially still bring kind of a value asset to different assets. So now it's saying if you want to purchase that item, you need a wallet. In this case, they wanted to keep the terminology wallet. Email, password, wallet is instantiated directly in the game. That player will now be connected on chain. Did I stop it? Okay. So the wallet is created. Now the special edition rifles, that's the terminology they decided to use instead of NFT to make it more friendly for their player community. Now the purchase happens, meaning it's written on chain, ownership has been transferred. And now when the player chooses the special rifles, which are the NFT rifles, they are able to craft essentially a new item. Just going down funnel. And this is all of the steps that players are already used to. And this is how we sort of bring that more familiarity to casual gamers, especially in how they can sort of start seeing the benefits of Web3 gaming, which is that ownership part. When you bring in the marketplace where they can trade these special digital items that they've created out of crafting or breeding because they're rewarded through gameplay, because they've reached different levels, for example. That's when they start seeing the value add of Web3 games. Those two items together will give you the opportunity to craft that item, which again, you could only receive if you do the quest, if you do the actual crafting. So player has initiated to craft the item and will be presented the item. Now, that item can be used in the game to get additional benefits, additional XP. That item can be traded or rented out again, since the player has worked hard to get the item. But essentially, the concept of working towards something and owning that reward is something that we're seeing really exciting for players. So as I was mentioning, where we sort of give a lot of flexibility to developers is in the way that they introduce these concepts into different games. So we work with publishers that are building AAA PC games to hyper-casual games in Apple and Google Play stores. So you obviously have a lot of flexibility in the way that you introduce it. And instead of using wallet, player profile is really popular. Instead of using NFT concepts, special items, limited edition items, and we've seen that to be really effective. Now, why it's worth it? It really comes down to the monetization and the rate of investment. So in paying players that start off in a funnel, what we're essentially seeing is a 42% conversion from free to paid during those Web3 campaigns. I mean, that's huge. We're seeing LTV versus CPI. Some of these games, most of these KPIs came from hyper-casual mobile games, but essentially $1.29 LTV against a 0.15 CPI. Again, pretty dramatic. An increase of ARPDU accounts all of the games, on average, a 74% lift. Again, very interesting. Now, what do you need to do all of that? It's whatever you're already using in Web 2, and we're bringing it to Web 3. How do you read the player? How do you target the player? How do you create these quests to bring them down funnel? How do you read the KPIs on chain to essentially target them and bring them deeper into funnel? We give you the on-chain user profile system, as I mentioned, the crypto mobile wallet, accessible on low-end Android devices, smart contract systems. We're completely chain agnostic, and that's really important. The field is still growing, essentially. Players don't have a preference right now. We want to be chain agnostic. We want to make sure that these NFTs are moving throughout different chains, throughout different games. NFT staking for players. We have a concept of injecting cryptocurrency in an NFT to introduce staking. Much easier for a player to understand putting an asset in a vault rather than putting cryptocurrency in a staking vault and getting yield from it. So again, just introductory information to players. Tokenized in-game currency, loyalty on-chain achievement system. All of these maximize the conversion rates to paid for players. And how do you do it? Well, this video will essentially show you. Plug and play SDK. Essentially make it incredibly easy. We have a Unity SDK, we have an Unreal SDK, we have API documentation. Most of the games integrating our tech are literally HTML5 games to mobile games to PC games to some entering console gaming. Most of our publishers have the same game in multiple platforms, and Web3 is allowing the gameplay to really move amongst the platforms as well. So we're really enabling Web3 gaming to really grow, to allow mass adoption to come in, to make it super easy, not only for developers to essentially finally have the space to innovate Web3 gaming, but for players to finally come in and enjoy it. Any questions, any more information? More information here. Contact Alfredo Barcena, who's our head of biz dev, been in the industry for 25 years, leading some of the biggest esports competitions. You'll have a great chat with him, essentially. Or myself, if you want to really dig deep more into the tech side. But essentially, any questions or anything, yeah, we're there to answer anything. No, oh, here we go.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Christina. Any questions? I have one. Come up here. So I don't know if you can answer this question, but it's sort of interesting that you had sort of the more traditional sort of PC game, but then sort of you seem to have quite a focus on the mobile sort of side. So are you seeing any sort of, would you say generally everyone's interested, or are you seeing more on sort of the mobile? I mean, it wasn't the hyper casual, but that was sort of fairly casual, which is not what not necessarily you'd expect that adoption necessarily from those guys.
50-50.
It is. Yeah.
It really is 50-50. I think it comes down to recognizing as a developer what you can tap to. Tapping on chain and essentially opening that up. We're seeing so many RPG games now. There's one game that is going to release in a few weeks, which is a game coming out of China, actually. They've removed all of the cryptocurrency aspect, but the NFT aspects are allowed, and essentially it's a very famous game getting into Web3, PC, console, a little bit of everything.
And it does seem to be interesting now that on the App Store side, if you have tokens, that's a problem. If you don't have tokens and there's some obvious rules you follow, then that seems not to be a problem in most cases, which is...
Exactly. We have the whole payment on-ramp and user flow that's regulated and accepted in the Apple and Google Play Store. You have to respect those regulations. We give you the tooling to do that. We have quite a lot of games in the App Store or the Google Play Store. So it's effective. You just have to follow the rules, and you get your Web3 game out there.
Yeah. Good KPIs that you were showing there. It's impressive.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Christina. And you guys have got a booth, haven't you, outside? If people want to...
B4.
Yeah, B4.
That's right.
Okay, B4, the place to go to find out more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.